Docine. That's interesting.
Yeah, Dolcine.
How do you, huh?
A lot of people do the Dolcine, but it's not.
How do you get the? How do you get the accent over your e, dog? I mean, that we don't even have that in. How did you get it? I mean, it's not even. How do you get it to come up on the screen? I don't even
Oh,
know how to.
what kind of computer do you have?
I got some PC. I don't know.
Um,
We live, by
on
the
a
way. I'm just
PC.
curious.
Okay, on a PC, I'm not sure how when when using a PC, I kind of just copy and paste. I Google and copy and paste. But on a Mac, it's like easy. You just hold the letter down, and then saying you could select whatever accent or whatever that you want.
Look at that daggone Mac users. What's
I'm a
going
new
on,
one.
huh?
I'm a new one. I'm a new one, fairly new.
Okay. Roundup homies, greetings to you. This is Chris Haskins. I will be your co-pilot today. Thank you for joining us as we fly 40,000 feet over the United States and talk about buying real estate out of state. Sorry about that. Buying real estate, silence your phone. That would be nice to do that. Buying real estate in another state. A lot of us, I'm saying me too, because my market is starting to go up and up and up and up. Nothing like my man Sam's, but a lot of our markets that we're in doesn't make it conducive to actually buy real estate where you live. So today I met this gentleman, Sam, and he is doing some amazing things buying real estate out of his area because in Los Angeles it's too crazy. So I wanted him to come on and share exactly what he's doing. I thought it would be a good fit. Sam Docine, how you doing, bro?
My man, I appreciate it. I'm doing well, doing great. Thank you for having me on the channel, and hopefully I can add some value and help some folks out.
You will, man. What you're doing, because I want to be honest. Like, I love the fact that I don't have to act like I didn't know anything. I can literally tell you I have no idea how to do this. I'm being honest. All the houses I've bought have been right here in my local area. So you're going to be
Yeah,
providing some value to me as well.
I'm ready.
So give us a little background story. I know here, and by the way, Sam, want to make sure if we do offer any products here, you're not going to pay anything more. We get a small percentage, but Sam wanted to make sure we let the viewers know if you support the channel with any products here, we get a small percentage, but you don't pay any more. In fact, you get a discount if you ever use some of the stuff that we recommend. So appreciate that, Sam.
Of course, my pleasure, man. Happy to help.
So tell me a little bit about you and why
Yeah.
in the world are you buying real estate out of the area?
Yeah. So, quick background on me. Haitian American, first generation. Both of my parents were born and raised in Haiti. Grew up in Brooklyn my whole life. Went to school there, elementary, middle, high school, and then went to school out near Buffalo. Went to college out near Buffalo, and moved to LA in 2016. So I've been here for 7 years, and a couple years after I got here, I realized that my retirement wasn't gonna take me too far based on what I was making at the time. And I had to figure out a way to make money. And so I heard real estate was cool. I heard people talk about real estate. I'm like, you know what? Let me try to get into real estate. So I went to a mortgage professional who I knew in LA. And he's like, all right, you can't qualify for anything. You might be able to get a condo down in Long Beach, maybe. And I'm like, all right, that's not exactly what I had in mind. So I'm like, all right, I still need to figure out a way to make money. And so I discovered online that people were investing out of state. And it might sound kind of crazy, but I didn't even know you could do that. And the reason for that is because when I grew up, the apartment that we lived in, our landlord lived in the multi-unit building right next door. So I just assumed that's how everybody did it. And so I spent 12 months just learning everything I could, piecing information together. And 4 years ago, I was able to get in the game and get my first out of state property. And honestly, like LA, you can get a 3-bed, 2-bath that's not even remodeled, and it could be at a million, a little under, or even over $1 million. So obviously, that doesn't make any sense, right? Those numbers just don't make sense, and there's a whole lot of reasons here doesn't make sense, but the price is just not even. It doesn't even make sense. And so, my first property was about 90K. It was a turnkey property. I didn't want to take. I wanted to minimize my risk to build my confidence on that first deal. So I still have that house. I self-manage as well, fired a property manager. We can get into that if you'd like, but
That's
that's
the first
the
question there we
that's the
got
short
already.
story, but happy to dive into anything else.
Yeah, so I'm just curious. Paint us the picture for people that live in any town, USA, like me. When you say you went to a mortgage broker, let's start there. I love the fact that you were going traditional route. And he said you didn't qualify for whatever. And what is this condo in Long Beach? Help me understand.
Yeah,
What
so
what
pretty
does that look?
much, yeah, I didn't even explore it honestly because I'm like, one, I don't want to live in a condo, and I'm trying to make money here. So I didn't even explore it further. But he's like, basically, you make so little that you might qualify for like a little studio condo down, or one bedroom condo, maybe. So he was
God.
just giving me a ballpark of what was realistic for me, if that makes sense.
Okay, so he's bringing you in the traditional mortgage down payment world.
Yeah, out here.
I got you. I got you. So
Mhm.
you would say that's not for me. And did you have a network of people that were around you that was doing this already?
Absolutely not. I didn't know anybody doing it. And it's funny, I didn't even know there was all this stuff online or all these people like doing what you're doing. I had no idea that was a thing. At the time, all I had was Bigger Pockets, which I, learned a lot from at the time, but I didn't have any mentors. I just had to figure it out really. I had virtual mentors, I guess you could say, but there was nobody to like guide me and say, "Hey Sam, do X, do Y, do Z." I just popped up with a property and told everybody this is what I did. And so, yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy, man.
That is interesting. My mentor always says, do stuff. He has another word he uses there, but
Yeah.
do stuff, right? I'm like, it's okay if you screw it up. The same, I admire people that just get out there. If you mess it up, you can always fix it. And if you don't
Yeah.
fix it, it'll fix itself. And bar nothing that anyone gets hurt. We're not talking about that. But when I hear your story, it makes me, my old band director used to always say, I don't care if you play the notes wrong. I just care if you just play, just play. So where did you get that from? I want to know, where did you get this? I'm going to try it and do it. And you did it. Where did you get that from? Where does that come from in your world?
Yeah, yeah. Quick question for you. What instrument did you play? I played the trumpet in high school.
Yeah, I'm a trumpet guy. I got two of them right here. Yep.
I got to get back to it, man. I haven't played in over like I don't know 15 years or something, but I would love to mess around with it, see if I still got some juice.
Got some chops. It's extremely therapeutic when you get kids. Right, I have a 15-year-old and they're all playing trumpets, and I get to play duets with my kids. It's so cool, man.
Wow, that's dope,
Yeah,
man.
yep, it's
That's
really cool.
dope. Um, but to answer your question, so where did that come from? You know, that's a good question. I think
Because a lot of
I've
people
kind
get
of
stuck in. I want to make
yeah,
sure you frame this up. People get stuck in education, mentorship,
yeah,
training, all this stuff.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll just be a little more vulnerable and transparent. So when I was a kid, we lost our home in the financial crisis. And I remember leaving the block. I remember uh it was like a terrible feeling. It was like it's kind of hit me now, but it was a terrible feeling we were in that home for a good amount of years and we lost it. And we've been renting it at the time and still renting ever since. And so I thought about that at the time. And I'm like, you know what? I can't give up. I don't fully understand everything, but I'm gonna get enough information to get to the finish line. I know I'm gonna make mistakes, but it's nothing that I can recover from. It's funny. This is kind of morbid, but I said, if the house blows up, I'll just cash out the insurance. If the house blows up with nobody inside of it, of course, I'll just get the insurance and I can start over again. Like there's no worst case scenario. The worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. I learn my lessons and I buy something again. But I'm like, you know what? This is an opportunity to start a change in my family and become an investor, which and it ended up inspiring a lot of people around me. And so, I thought more about the benefits and what could go right instead of what could go wrong. And I gave myself a strict timeline. I said, I'm going to do this in 12 months. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make it happen. And I was able to do that.
Man, that's cool. I love the story. So I want to hear more about this process. So you're almost you see this box of real estate. So for me, when I'm seeing the box, I'm buying in the box. I'm gonna buy stuff right here in Virginia Beach every week. You know what I mean? That's what I do. But for your life exists outside. Well, your box isn't even local. So what does it look like? So
Yep,
tell me your thought process getting started.
absolutely. So the first thing I did, so it was about 10 months into me just figuring this thing out. I got introduced to some folks out in Dayton, Ohio, who work with investors. And so I went out there to visit. They sent me some information on the market. So, percentage of renters. They sent me information about money being invested into the city, what the job market is like, what rents are like, just some high level stuff. And I did a lot more digging and, got into forums and started networking and just getting a lay of the land. And so I went out there to visit. I went out there. I met with the folks from the folks who I was introduced to, who work with investors. I was introduced to them, and then met with the property manager, and just got to see everything for myself. And I'm like, everything I'm seeing online, it's reflected in person, right?
Mhm.
And just kind of talking to people, getting a feel for the areas. I'm like, this is a place that I think is pretty good because it's between Columbus, Ohio, which is way more popular and larger, and Cincinnati, Ohio, which is way more popular. And I'm like, you know what? This is a hidden gem. They call it Gem City, but it's a hidden gem, in my opinion, at the time, that has good numbers, good rents, and rents have since skyrocketed. That's probably been everywhere, but it had enough information for me to say. I had enough information for me to say this is where I'm going to invest. And a couple months later, I was able to close on that first property. But um, I would say, just in summary, I figured out, you know, the market. So, the benefits, is it a growing city, things of that nature. I met people on the ground, had conversations, and did my best to validate the information I was seeing online. And then I made a decision. At the end, I'm like, all right, am I going to visit 3, 4 other cities, or is this where I'm going to start? And I decided this is where I'm going to start.
So you actually went out to Ohio.
Mhm. I did.
That's a
I
big
did.
move, though. I mean, a lot of people ain't gonna do that. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was committed, man. Like, I think you don't necessarily have to visit, but me, like, at the time, I was a lot more risk averse. So I'm like, all right, let me at least fly out there. It's not the easiest place to get to, but I got out. I went out there, and it helped. It gave me a lot of peace of mind. But yeah, I got on a plane and went out there for a weekend,
Wow,
and
that's
the rest
crazy.
was history.
I don't want to minimize that, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, you were so committed. I'm like, man, you really are committed to your future. You got on the daggone plane and was like, let me go look at some houses. I mean, most people don't even they won't even look at houses in the local city.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Get in the car. I ask people like, how many houses have you looked at? Well, one or two, and you were on a plane. That's crazy.
Yeah, man, it was a cool experience. I don't know anybody there. I didn't have any like friends or relatives. Like I knew nothing. But I got out there and started networking.
So tell me about these. I don't want to say people. I want to say probably more or less entities that you're meeting
Mhm.
as you're there. Tell me about that process on the first go round.
Yeah. So the first go round, I met with a property manager who I didn't actually end up working with. And I use what's called a turnkey company, which I actually wouldn't do again. But basically, these companies flip houses to investors, and they typically place the tenant. They come in property management, and that's like the first thing I learned out of as investing out of state. Like that's what I kept seeing a lot. So that's what I did. So they kind of managed the process. I was able to do my inspection and have them fix what needed to be fixed, things of that nature. There's a lot of downsides and I say upsides to doing it in that way. But the folks I met with were a turnkey company. So they have these companies like throughout the country, and pretty much they flip houses to investors that are turnkey and ready to go.
So, well, let's stay there for a minute. You want to?
Mhm.
I don't want to push too hard. Give us some ups and downs because
Of course.
I'm on this journey, Sam. I don't know if I told you. I have this Venn diagram where the entrepreneur, let's just say the black entrepreneur and the black professional. I feel like when those two come together, I just feel like it's magic, right? But
Yeah.
there with this cloudy area in my mind, and once again, I told you I have a therapist. I'm talking to her, trying to figure out how could we merge the two because I really feel like there's a gap there. So the entrepreneur's
Mhm.
mind, I'm looking at houses all day, every day. The busy professional, they're not going to do it. So this is where that turnkey company kind of comes in to do it for you.
Yeah. Excellent question. Happy to dive into it. So I'll talk about some of the pros and I'll talk about some of the cons. So the pros are, the hard work is done for you, right? So the property is rehabbed, the property should be delivered to you with no issues. And I later found out, because I was such a rookie, that I could have got the same thing off the MLS, but that's neither here nor there. So one of the pros is, they do everything for you. They come with property management. They place the tenant. There was actually no lease up fee, which is why I went with their property management before we parted ways. And for those who don't know, pretty much the lease up fee is the fee for placing a tenant. So sometimes a leasing agent or a property manager might charge 1 month's rent, or they might charge a portion of the rent as their fee for placing a tenant. They didn't have a fee, so I'm like, all right, I'll go with them. If they suck, I'll fire them after a year, because I had to stay with them for a year, which I did, but it made sense at that time. So that's another pro. I'd say the third pro, I felt like they answered all of my questions. As somebody who was very new, I had a lot of questions, and they were pretty patient with me, and I really wanted to understand like what I was signing and all this stuff. So the account manager, whoever person I was working with, she was pretty good, and I felt pretty good about the process. Some of the cons, I would say,
real quick, let's stay on your pros. I want to hear them. I might have to answer a question here. I don't know. I didn't tell you my $3,000 refrigerator broke, and the guy just came, so I might have to talk to him real quick.
That's no problem.
On the pros, they did what they said what they were going to do.
They did. They did.
Okay. That's a pro.
I missed something on the inspection report that came back to bite me later. I ended up having to replace the HVAC like 2 years later, and that's something that they should have just put a new one in, to be honest with you, because in the inspection, the inspector flagged that it had maybe a few years left, and I should have flagged that for them. So that's the one thing I would do differently. And in my opinion, that should have already been done. Mm-hmm. But their perspective might have been, well, it has a few more years, so it's not technically out.
That's true.
I would have pushed a little bit on that. But for the most part, they did what they said they would do.
That's a plus, man. A lot of times in real estate and in business in general, see people say one thing and do another, as you know.
Yep.
Okay, pros are done. Go ahead with the cons.
Yeah. So one of the cons is there's no negotiation. So the price is the price, presumably because they need to make their margin, right? They need to make their profit. But I think the downside is that you cannot negotiate. And the other downside is that you're buying at the market rate, which you might still do on the MLS, but you have more negotiating power than going with a turnkey company. The other thing I would say is, you kind of hope they place the right person, and you hope the property management is good. But if you choose to go with them, they might suck. And that's what happened to me. And I ended up firing them, and I've been self-managing ever since. But, I would say that's another con as well.
Trying to figure out property management, man. That is a double-edged sword from here to the end of the real estate world.
Man, I got stories.
Give us one real quick while we're on it, man. Give us one, Sam.
All right. So I thankfully was able to find boots on the ground. And what I mean by boots on the ground is like someone I met out there who can look after things for me, who does drive-bys of the properties for me and things of that nature. If I'm looking at a new property, I have her check the neighborhood out, send me a video, things like that. And so the property manager sent reports every month that included, the rent, what repairs or whatever. And eventually they started including the service requests from tenants. And so I noticed that there was a request talking about the fence came down. And so I told him, like, yo, this is in the report. Nobody told me about this. Like, the fence came down. What's going on? And so they took forever to fix it. They finally fixed it, but it's like there was no urgency there. And I had to assume, perhaps because I'm a new investor at the time, they don't really care about my request, but it's like they took forever. And the thing is, there were children in the house, there's dogs. So it's like a whole lot could have went wrong, and they just neglected the situation. It's like I had to keep following up to make sure stuff happened. And so that's the first thing that happened. And then the second thing that happened, I didn't actually.
This is before you didn't have boots on the ground at that time.
I did. So she's
you got lucky with that.
She's the one who actually confirmed what I read inside the report. I said, hey, can you drive by and take a picture of the fence and send it to me? Mm-hmm. The whole thing was down, wooden fence. And so, it was crazy, man. And fast forward, I actually never saw the house before I purchased it. Like, I just used the inspection and all that stuff to verify everything. So I went out to visit for the first time a year later, and I was trying to get access to the property because, again, I've never been inside, and the property manager was acting like I was a nuisance, like I was bothering them, and
What?
so yeah, and it's like it's my house and I'm paying you. Like, how are you not gonna help me get access? You know what I'm saying?
Good grief.
And
These people.
yeah, it's crazy. And so I ended up pulling up to the house with my boots on the ground, checking on the tenants, and everything was
Yeah.
cool. But I fired them like a few weeks later. I'm like, yo, I think I could do this myself. These people are incompetent. Not that all property managers are, but I don't like these folks. I could do it myself. And I've been doing that for about almost 3 years now.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, man. The property management, I have zero luck. I've met a few in my travels, one could say.
Mhm.
But they are hard to find. And a good one, man, from what I have seen, the good ones, they are so bagged up with inventory, it's ridiculous.
Man.
Everybody knows that they're one of the good guys, you know.
Right.
Okay, so we got stories on pros and cons buying regarding you not being in that area and using a turnkey company. Because I think a lot of business professionals actually, what else are they going to do? I mean, they're not going to sit there and just go over lead after lead, boo, 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 look at 100 houses like we do every week.
Mm-hmm.
So you've made this decision. Let me reintroduce you. We're 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Roundup homies, we're here talking about buying houses out of state. Here with my man Sam, he's got his little system down. He started buying real estate several years back. He's still doing it because he lives in Los Angeles. So if you see a fit for you, pay attention to what he's doing, man. If you can't buy in your particular area, and even if you can, if it's not outpriced like Los Angeles, perhaps you could add out-of-state real estate to your portfolio. All right, so walk me through it real quick. You went out there, you saw it, you came back, a turnkey. Now, where are we at regarding? So you got the one property. Tell me how it's going, and just walk us through it visually.
Absolutely. So, had the first property, did my first turnover, which was pretty challenging because
turnover, saying.
So turnover is basically when a tenant moves out, you're preparing the unit for those who don't know, when a turnover is when you're preparing the unit for the next tenant. And so I had my boots on the ground. Her name was Courtney. I had her do a walkthrough after the tenant left, and it was clean, but there was one problem. The one problem was that she allowed her dogs to do their business inside the house.
Oh, man.
And so therefore the carpet was clean, but as you can imagine, it didn't smell the greatest.
Yeah, gotta go.
So what I decided to do was find somebody who could, one, like paint the place, do like all the small repairs. And then also I decided to go with vinyl plank flooring. I was like, I'm done with carpet. Let's put this vinyl plank flooring in and call it a day. I made a lot of mistakes. I found a contractor on Facebook Marketplace. I managed her terribly. I'll just be honest with you. I should have leveraged my boots on the ground more and had her check in and go to the house and really like press her a little bit more. I didn't do that, so it took longer to get the unit turned over. We eventually did, and the same family's been in there for going on 3 years. But that was a lesson I learned at that point. And fast forward to earlier this year, I'm like, you know what? Interest rates are really high, and I think that's great. It's great because there's less competition for people who don't really invest. And I was in a position to get back in the game, and I purchased another property in the same city earlier this year. Self-managing that as well, have a tenant in there and everything. Was able to negotiate quite a bit with the seller on like repairs. So they fixed quite a lot, which I'm thankful for. I didn't have to do too much to it. And so I'm actively looking for more. I'm trying to get more deals. And, we're at a time where people are on the sidelines. I think it's great for investors. This is our time to eat, right? Like it's all about the numbers. And if you could find a deal where the numbers make sense, even in this current environment, it's time to go. So, actively looking to add more to the portfolio.
It's time to move. I have to remind myself, Sam, that's why I always have a t-shirt on. I have something on my chest that's reminding me, Chris, you got, we're human, including me. And, both of us. I got to remind myself, Chris, you're an investor. You run two problems. And it's weird. As I was contemplating today, Sam, I think I'm no longer in the real estate business, man.
What you in?
I have come to the realization, dog. Round up homies. I'm gonna do a video about this. I am actually in the problem solving business. Like I don't even look for houses anymore. And like just on my goggles, we look for people that have problems. So for instance, we're buying one next week. The lady has her job starts Friday. We got to close Monday, right? So you got to close in 7 days. So I'm just saying that's a problem. So I want to ask you, Sam, problems that you're solving. Tell me about, because I feel like entrepreneurs, we're in the business of solving problems. How is this, just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I believe that I'm solving the lack of rental housing problem.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I put a property up, I get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. Like I can't even keep up with all the requests.
Application.
Dozens of inquiries, dozens of applications. And the reason for that is because there's not enough rental housing in the city. For example, the most recent property in the zip code, there were less than 10 houses available for rent. And that's not enough to meet the demand. So for me, it's like, it's easy. Well, it's hard to find a good tenant, but you have a lot to choose from. And so I believe I'm solving that problem because not everybody either wants to or can buy a house.
They cannot.
So if I can provide safe and clean housing for somebody so they can live in dignity, whether it's them or their family or whoever, I believe I'm solving a problem. And I take that very seriously. You know, I care about my tenants. I want to make sure everything is good and safe. And thankfully, I've been able to find good folks who pay their rent on time and don't cause any issues. And that's what I love to do. You know, I believe landlords provide a service, and it's on us to make sure it's a good service and that we're not, allowing folks to live in substandard housing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to me, there's a big problem out there with rental housing. Like and it's evidenced by the number of inquiries I always get.
So I love it when you can be the research. You don't have to do any tests. You don't got to Google nothing. You don't got to go nowhere. Listen, these are the numbers. I put one house up for rent. I got this many inquiries. So you are the research.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's solid, man. I love it.
Thanks, man.
I love it. I love when I can be the research. People are like, well, is renting properties good? I'm like, dude, I got 50 applications. So it's like,
Yeah.
So now you're sharing the good word. I want to I got some questions here too. Are you safe with that, Sam? I don't want to.
Any questions? Let's do it.
Zach, how do you find a good property management company that won't rip you off? I'm gonna check with my refrigerator guys. He's looking at me. I'll be right back, Sam.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So good question, Zach. So here's a couple of things. You want to make sure you vet them properly. So one, you want to figure out who their other clients are. So wherever you want to invest, there's going to be a real estate group on Facebook or like a meetup. I recommend, it's funny, I actually posted in the dating Facebook group the other day, but I recommend putting in the Facebook group, has anybody worked with X, Y, and Z property management companies? Send me a PM or comment. Let me know what your experience was like. I would recommend doing that on the Facebook groups and then doing that on the forums on Bigger Pockets for that particular city. The second thing is you want to find out how they vet tenants. What is their process to vet tenants? Is it thorough, or are they just taking anybody who applies and not doing any type of thorough vetting? Are they verifying their income? Are they checking with their previous landlords? Like, how thorough is their process? That's one of the things that I would mention. The other thing I would mention is, what are the fees, right? Do they just charge 8 to 10% of the rental income for their fees? Are there any other fees that they charge throughout the year? What is their process to ensure the property is good and there's upkeep? So I would say definitely get referrals or get feedback from other people on the property management companies you're considering, and really get in thoroughly on their process, and just talk to the people as well. See if it's people you feel comfortable with. Sometimes people might be dismissive. If they're dismissive to people who don't have large portfolios or who are just starting out, I wouldn't recommend going with them. So part of it is a bit subjective that you'll have to fill out in addition to the objective measures as well. So hopefully that helps out. But thorough vetting is super important for a property manager.
Yeah. So you got we're gonna keep doing the Q&A.
Of course.
Sam, but I want to make sure we let our roundup homies know about your workshop coming up. Go ahead and tell them about that. Then we'll get to the we'll finish the Q&A.
Yes, yes. So I'm hosting a 4-week intensive workshop starting next Wednesday, September 20th, to teach you how to buy your first out-of-state property. So 4 weeks, it'll be virtually on Zoom. We'll talk about how to find the right location, how to build your team. We'll talk about creative financing and a whole lot more. There'll be homework after each session. And
you
by
may
the
gotta
end
do
of,
some. I got to do something, Sam.
you got to do something. You got to work. You got to work. And the goal will be at the end of each session for you to have a framework on how to do the specific thing that I'm teaching, and it's for you to be able to implement it and start working on it right away. And so, if it's something you're interested in, we're happy to share some more information. I think there'll be a link inside of the chat. If you fill out the form, it takes like 5 minutes. We'll hop on a call. You can schedule your call as you fill the application out, and we'll talk more about it. We'll talk about your goals, and we'll see if it's a good match. But I'm excited. I wish it started tomorrow. I'm so excited about this to really pour into people. A lot of people feel hopeless right now, especially those who can't afford where they live. But there's so many opportunities out of state, in places that you wouldn't even think of. And so, there's opportunity out there. Don't feel like there's not opportunity out there just because the interest rates are high or just because it's expensive where you live at. So definitely head to the website if it's something that you're interested in learning more about.
Sweet. Yep. That video, Sam gave me a link, and he's given all of my roundup. Make sure you mention the roundup show so you can get it. He will give you a discount on whatever he's doing. I don't really know all the details, but I can see this dude is he's thorough with what I already saw the page, thorough with what he's doing. And further, I firmly believe that I think every intake that I get, like when I do consultations and coaching, everybody has this vision in their mind where they want to own 200, 300, 400 doors, right, Sam? They got these apartment complexes and they're doing all this stuff. But I'm like, what about your first one house that you still renting, right? And I'm not saying no disrespect to anybody renting, because you can rent and own another property that you rent out, right? So that number one, I'm glad that we're not trying to go to a high level. We just want to get you started with getting one property. If you have to buy in another market, Sam, I applaud you for doing that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yep. So we'll see what Sam has to offer right there. And for his, he can explain exactly how it works. That link will take you right to it. Zach wants to know, is it better to rent to Section 8 because they don't do monthly inspections. They do yearly inspections, Zach. Good gracious. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so I haven't done Section 8. I don't have a problem with the program at all. I think it just depends on, if you want to do what's required for their process. And so if you want to do get the place in, get the property in a place that will pass their inspection. If you want to work with their program, I'm sure, Chris, you have a lot more to say about that. I know Section 8 is something that you've done. I haven't done it personally. I think it just depends on what you want to do. Like some investors do Section 8, some investors do market rate tenants, some do a combination of both. I wouldn't say it's good or bad. You just have to look at it and see if you want to fulfill the requirements of Section 8 or if you want to just get a market rate tenant. I think it's that simple. A lot of folks like the guaranteed rent aspect of Section 8, which I totally understand. It makes sense. So, I'd say you need a vet, or your property manager needs to vet the person the same way they would a market rate tenant, not just take the voucher because, you're guaranteed all or a high portion of the rent. Still want to make sure that you vet the person properly. But Chris, what are your thoughts on that in Section 8?
Yeah, I'm a diehard user of Section 8, right? I feel like that is my right being an American. I get to get the government money just like it was any type of grant from the government to build a building or to do some type of institution. I feel like that I'm right there. So they pay every month, first, second of the month, third of the month. I don't have to worry about it. So I'm an advocate for Section 8. However, who asked that question? Zach, you got to screen them, right? They got good and bad, just like Sam was saying. I've had one horrible Section 8 tenant, but the majority of mine have been good. I think Sam also mentioned dignity. If you treat tenants, and they know they're tenants, everybody wants to. I have never met a person to say, you know what, I just want to rent for the rest of my life. That person doesn't ever exist. Or does it, Sam? Have you ever met somebody that says, I don't want to own none, I just want to rent forever?
I'll say a lot of people want to own. Yeah, probably the majority want to own eventually or hope to get to that position.
Eventually. Yeah, Sam saying it extremely kind. So I haven't. Everybody I meet, they want to earn, so they know they want to own. So when their tenants, if you treat them with dignity, I don't know why it works like that. You treat your tenant with like extreme dignity, they'll take care of you. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm very thankful. I haven't had a bad tenant yet. Things happen, but it's never been anything where I want to get you out. Like even my very first tenant, I let her get out of her lease early. I didn't charge her anything. I'm like, you know what? She's paid on time through the pandemic, like no issues. Um, she didn't get her deposit back, but she was a very nice lady. Like I didn't have any issues with her or her children. And folks who are there now, very understanding, very patient. Like if I can't get to something right away, they're very patient,
Yeah,
self-sufficient. So,
cool.
and I treat them well. I stay out of their way to, I don't pester them about stuff, and I reach out when I need to and vice versa. And it works. But I think respect is a big part of it.
Yep. So get your questions in the chat for Sam here, guys. Talking about buying real estate out of state, which I have no idea how to do. That's why I defer to the experts
Mhm.
that are doing it. Doing it. The key to the word is doing, not necessarily did it 20, 30 years ago. Hello, Kia wants to know, do you also do out of state flips, Sam?
Yeah. I'm not a flipper. My preference for buying properties is things that are I'll buy a property that needs work that's like a 1 or 2 day job. I don't personally like managing contractors and doing all that stuff. So with this last property, for example, I had to put in had to get a new PVC pipe put in, I had to get a water heater put in, I had to fix some cracked windows, do some landscaping, all stuff that's like quick. I don't like managing like a large project and a gut rehab
Challenging.
and all that stuff. It's tough in general, but it's also tough to do long distance. People do it though. I know plenty of people who flip long distance, who do big scale rehab long distance. I don't. So I think, it's a big part of this of investing is knowing the kind of investor you are.
Mhm.
Knowing if you and there's upsides and downsides to different approaches. So if you want to be an investor who's doing very basic rehab, cosmetic stuff, or like 1 day jobs, like I mentioned, you are probably going to buy closer to the top of the market. If you're somebody who's willing to do some work and take a property that needs a value add, you'll have more equity. There's more upside, but it's also a bit tougher. So, I don't know if I would do that just starting out. Maybe you build up to that.
Mhm.
But no approach is wrong.
There
I
you
think
go.
whatever gets you in, and then from there you can take on more risk, learn a bit more, do some more rehabs, and hey, if you eventually want to flip, build up your confidence to be able to get to that point. Maybe partner up with somebody initially who's more experienced than you. But that'll be my
Good
take
idea.
on
That's some good points you got there, Sam. My mentor just told me today. He says, Chris, there's a million ways to make $1 million. You
it.
gotta choose one of them joints.
Yeah.
Doing all this stuff, everybody kind of moving around. Let me ask you, Sam, who is your
Mhm.
workshop for? I would call it the buying out of state workshop.
Yeah.
Who is it for, man?
So I would say if you're somebody who lives in a market where you just cannot afford to invest, you can't afford to buy property, it's for you. If you're somebody who's ready to put the work in, it takes work. I will show you how to fish. I will support you as you're fishing, but ultimately you have to implement the information. So if you're somebody who wants to take the information and implement it and work towards the goal, no matter how long it takes, then it's perfect for you. If you are somebody who wants it done for you, this is not a good program for you. But if you're somebody who is willing to put in the work, who's willing to put in the sweat equity it's going to take to reach that goal, which you probably you haven't ever done, and you may not know anybody who's ever done it, then it's for you. So I would say, and if you're tired of life the way it is, if you want to change, if you want to work towards building wealth for your family, building wealth for yourself, and you want to take this first step, then it's for you. When I purchased that first property, like it literally changed everything. Yeah, I got, however much I got from that first rent check, but I'm like, it changed something inside of me. I'm like, wow, like here I am at work and I get a notification of some money I'm getting in Ohio. right? That I
Wow.
don't have to do anything for. And
Mhm.
so that's the beauty of it. And so if you're ready to put the work in, it's going to be a great 4 weeks. And I believe it can help you reach your goal if you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Put the work in, have some creativity and some perseverance, and you can definitely reach your goal.
It's funny you say we got that check. As I'm aging, I'm noticing that what's more important is not as making a, obviously you want to earn as much as you can, but how you make it is mentally a little bit more important than how much you make. Because I can only imagine rent check can only be so much, right? If you're making
Yeah.
at your job, you're making more money at your job, no doubt. But the rent check came in and it's so much impact to your mind.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely, man.
It took zero time. Well, I won't say zero. It took a lot less time to earn that money than it did, So I keep telling my guys how you
Easy.
make it, how you made that money. Like this dollar over here, different than this dollar.
That's a fact. That's a fact, man. 100% fact.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, let's see. Did we do that? How we doing flips? So Roundup, he's got a link right there in the video description. If you want to learn this skill set, it's pretty cool, especially for people that can't necessarily afford their local market. High Vibe. Are the out-of-state properties you purchase in need of rehab? If so, how much? How do you manage that? Great question.
Excellent question. So I'll talk about it for the most recent property. So the most recent property needed a bit of landscaping. I needed to get blinds put up. I needed to fix some cracked windows. I needed to put in a new water heater and install what's called a PVC pipe. It needed a new PVC pipe. So what I did a couple things. So I leveraged Facebook a lot, uh, Facebook groups a lot. And so what I did to get some leads to do all that work was go on Facebook, ask for recommendations, but I also Googled. I looked at who had high reviews, and I just started making calls. I started making calls and getting bids. And obviously, you want to listen to the full picture. Like, what are how much does it cost? How long does it take? When can you get out? And just compare and get the best price. But from a practical perspective, I have a lockbox on the property. So what that means is that somebody could use a lockbox, get the key, get inside. You just have to make sure they lock it afterward and confirm with you that it's locked and the lights are off. But that's kind of how I manage the work that's getting done. I get pictures and videos and confirmation of everything being done. So it's not that difficult. And like I said, it's easier for me because everything that I'm open to doing is like you go in, you do it, and you leave. So it's done like right there. So it's not people who are in and out of the house for days on end. So that's
Mm.
the benefit of doing it in the way that I like to do it. But that's generally the process. Obviously, if you have a larger project, it could be, depending on the level of rehab and work you take on, it could be a lot more complex than I mentioned. But you can have it where you do minor things like I did, or where you virtually do nothing and just clean the place up and put somebody in. So
Yeah,
it really depends on what you have an appetite for and a tolerance for, I would say. But it's up to you. I mean, it's a wide spectrum, and you kind of choose where you want to be on it.
got it. Cool. Hello Key is asking, are you using hard money, Sam?
No, I'm not using hard money. I don't have a problem with hard money. I'd say if you want to use hard money, just you need to know what you're doing, because you got to pay the money back, right? So I don't currently use hard money, but for anybody who wants to use hard money, you just got to make sure you know what you're doing. You got a good plan with it. And Chris, feel free to add to that.
Well, if you are one of my roundup homies, you know that we use creative financing and private money. I'm going to show you all a text message today from a gentleman that just is loaning me $75,000 on Monday. It's so crazy. My wife says, Chris, how the hell do you get people to give you all this money? I don't even, I just send out text messages. I show people we got deals. You want to get a return? Boom, let's go. So we use ordinary people to finance majority of our real estate deals, or we use creative financing. I will use hard money from time to time, but you're going to have to refinance out of that stuff to do the strategy that Sam's talking about here.
Yeah,
Teresa, nice picture there. Look at the Christmas, Felice.
I like that. I like that. That's
That's
really dope.
cool. How long
uh,
should you have a tenant? Go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my bad. I didn't hear you. I didn't see you were reading.
You can read it. Yep. How long
As
should you
long
have
as
a tenant in the property?
if they're a good tenant, as long as possible. So
Long as possible.
the tenants who I just re-signed a lease, and this will be their third year in the property.
I'm good with
Absolutely
that.
excellent tenants. Like I hope they never leave. So I would say if they're good, as long as possible. You want to make sure your rents are at least close to market rent. But hey, I say as long as possible. I don't want anybody to leave because it makes it easier for everybody. It makes it easier for me. Turnover sucks as a landlord. So, if you have somebody, if you have good tenants, do your best to keep them happy, and hopefully their family situation is good and they stay employed, and just ride the wave.
Keep them as long as possible, Teresa. Because Sam ain't moving. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to speak for
Not
you.
to not to Ohio.
You're never going to
No
Ohio,
offense.
right? Dayton. Could you? Yeah, you're not going from LA to Dayton. Dayton's cool, I'm sure, but I mean, you're not going to move.
Nah.
So it ain't like you need to go there to have one of those places to live in.
Yeah. Unless my wife says otherwise, which
Yeah,
you deal with that when that comes.
you got a bigger problem than getting the house than that. Chef Darnell, you touched on the marketing. Will you dig deeper into that? What all kind of marketing should we look into as a buy and hold investor? Great question.
I think I'm assuming this person meant like the market itself.
Touched on the
I think
marketing. Marketing. I think he's talking about looking for deals, Sam.
looking for deals.
Marketing, because we do marketing looking for leads. Go
Got
ahead.
it. Got it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways. So you can always work with a realtor, who has listings on the MLS. Maybe they have pocket listings which haven't made it to the MLS yet. You can look like yesterday. I was looking on Craigslist. I was looking on Facebook Marketplace.
Everywhere.
So you have those type of things. You have all type of softwares as well, Deal Machine, Prop Stream. So, I would say pick something that works for you. Try a few different places and see what you could see if you could find what you're looking for. But the kind of deal you're looking for could be in any of those places or even other places. So I'll say there's a ton of ways to look for deals. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I'm big on putting money in a box. Like this is because I'm old, man. I'm like if I was younger, like Sam's age, I would be hustling, looking for deals, running different, doing mailers and doing a lot more effort stuff. But now, as I'm super old now, I just want to put $1 in a box, right? So we have a team that runs an online ads campaign for us, and they just come in all day. So, but Chef Darnell Lane, you have to decide. There's two ways you can get leads: effort, energy, or writing a check. So you have to decide which way you want to do that. Or you can mix the two. You can have somebody on staff that does the effort for you. That you're writing a check for someone working for you. So it doesn't have to be either or. It can be and, but you get to decide what you want to do on that one. I'm looking for a chef too, Darnell. If you're local, please hit me up. I need to get somebody in here. Zach, Sam, are you concerned about another COVID lockdown?
No, I'm not, to be honest with you. And honestly, during it, I wasn't concerned either because I had reserves. And what that means is I have money set aside from the rental income in case something happened. And it always comes in handy because something will happen at some point.
Yep.
And so honestly, I'm not worried about that at all. It might come to a point where I shift my strategy. Like perhaps if something drastic like that happens again or is on the horizon, maybe I go into Section 8 so I can get most or all of my rent. So
Yeah.
I think it's just about being agile and being flexible. I don't think investors should worry about uncontrollable things. I think
Yeah.
you do the best you can to prepare for what might happen and control what you can. And then, you may have to adjust. I think being able to adjust is super important. And when things happen, you might have to adjust your strategy.
You got to pivot. Yeah. I like the way you said, I can't control it whether it comes or not. I have to just figure out how to get myself prepared for whatever comes.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely,
just about
man.
being an entrepreneur, man. Shoot, I mean, it just come.
Say that again.
I'm prepared for a UFO to come and take the house away. I am prepared. I got it.
Yeah.
Anita, hey, nice picture there. When do you increase rents, Sam, and for what reasons?
Good question. So I haven't, so the folks who have been there in one of my properties for a couple of years. I haven't increased their rent. I considered it this year, but when I looked at the market, like I'm right at market rent. So I guess I was ahead of the market a few years ago, but I'm right at market rent and my spreads are good. So and they're staying. So I'm like, cool, whatever. I'll leave it. And there's actually no rent control in that area, but I decided just to keep the rent the same. But I'd say if my costs go up significantly, then I'll have to increase the rent. So if my property taxes go up, if my insurance goes up, then I have to increase the rent to some degree so I can still make money. If I find myself eventually below market rent, then I may decide to increase the rent at that point. So I think you just kind of have to play it by ear. There are some areas with rent control, so you may have a cap to how much you can raise it.
Got it.
I don't like places like that, but it depends. But I would say if my expenses go up, I may increase it, and if my rents fall below market rate, I'll increase it. Or if I have a turnover and the market rate changes, then I'll post it. I'll post the rent at whatever at or a little bit under the market rate.
Got it. Got it. Seven wants to know about these ADUs. Do you add ADUs on any of the properties?
Nah, that's not my ministry. Nope. Yeah, I don't build additional structures on my properties. Not saying that I wouldn't. I have one where the lot is like huge, but I don't even know what it's zoned for. I would have to look to see if that's even possible, or if it even makes sense. I think the way that particular house is structured now, it makes it a better rental to have such a big yard space. So not something I've done, but not I can't say I wouldn't do it down the road.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's coming. They're talking about it where we live now, but it's not really here yet.
Yeah, it's here in California, big time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, real estate roundup, homies. The last thing you want to leave we had one other question. Somebody's talking about transactional funding. Teresa, that's a little too long for our conversation today, but just post a comment in the video and I'll answer that. I'll type it out for you. That's gonna take a little time. Sam, people interested in out of state real estate. You're the man. You're gonna show them, walk with them step by step, exactly how you have actually done it and are doing it. I'm glad that we are able to just kind of open the book to start the conversation because some people feel like they're locked out based on
Yeah.
numbers. I hear people all the time. I can never buy anything where I live.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So I would say if you can't buy where you live and you want to build wealth, you want to gain wealth over time, build your cash flow, you need to be at this workshop. It's doable. Like you have to ignore the news, you have to ignore the noise. All that stuff is set up to put fear into us so other people can get rich when we could be the ones getting rich. So, ignore the noise, come to the workshop, lock in with me for 4 weeks. We're going to show you from A through Z how to buy your first out-of-state property. We're going to talk about creative financing. We're going to talk about building your team. We're going to talk about finding the right location. We're going to talk about a whole lot more. So definitely make sure you click the link in the chat or in the description of this video. It takes you maybe 2 minutes to fill out the information, and then you'll have a link where you can schedule a call. I have a limited number of slots for calls over the next week, so you definitely want to make sure you get in. But definitely click the link, apply, and I look forward to chatting with you and hopefully getting you into the program. And if you're ready for change, if you want your life to be different 12 months from now than it is today, definitely make sure you come, and I would love to have you there.
That's interesting you say that, man. Wow. You put a 12-month. That's a beast move, brother. I mean, I'm just shocked. I never knew you did it that fast.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is something. I can't wait to hear the story. All right, round up, homies. Make sure you like this content for optimization purposes. The main thing I need y'all to do is share. We need to get the word out for people that feel like they're locked in. And I feel like sometimes when I talk, it's like, it's just you, Chris. You can do it, but nobody else. We're living proof. This dude is doing it, y'all. He's buying real estate. So you can do this business. You can do it, but you got to make sure you're tuned into the right frequencies. So I try to give you the different frequencies on my channel so you can tune. It's just like a radio. You can tune, like he said. When I got to tell y'all, when I cut the news off, no doubt you watched the news when you were younger, Sam.
Yeah.
My parents, every night, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
Shh, watch the news. Bam, right there. And when I cut that mess off, my income went crazy. I mean, it's like night and day.
Yep. That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes.
So all this, the noise that we have coming in is just designed, as you just said, to keep money going toward them. It's really crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to seeing y'all. Subscribe, share this content, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. See y'all in my next video. Peace.